are back. Corbin, episode 4. Is that what it is? I always have to confirm it. We are back for episode 4 of Under Contract. Oh gosh, you guys. One of the things that I love the most about this particular podcast, Under Contract, is not only do we get to discuss the commitments that we make for ourselves in business and life, but I have an opportunity to discuss with people that are either in my life, whether they're associates, colleagues, friendships, business relationships, or, you know, people that I see more than the regular, such as my hairstylist, which is probably 2 to 3 times a week. I love the stories that I hear, because that person that does your hair, that person that does your facials, that person that does your nails, or whatever it is that you might be, you know, your provider that's doing a service for you that week or that day, you learn to get to know them over the year. And over the years, you learn more about them that as an individual, that they're not just this person who colors your hair. They're not this person that just does your nails. They're a human being with real human experiences, and they're on a journey. So today I'm excited because I've been trying to figure out a way to start incorporating more of the mental health wellness aspect into this podcast, to bring you informational episodes, not just about real estate, right? About life. So today I have a very dear friend of mine, and I've grown to love him more and more every day. His presence in my life is beyond what I think he even knows, because he is such a strong, resilient human being. And watching him grow, watching him evolve, and watching him truly honor the contracts that he's made with themselves to become a better version of themselves, thereby influencing other people's lives, not just with the color that he does in my hair, but who he is as a person. Today, I have my dear, dear, dear friend, Jason from Gila Root Salon in Hillcrest. Jason, welcome.
Thank you, Tammy, so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here and to share this moment with you, this journey with you. You know, I think you're correct. I think that, you know, we do spend so much time together in those intimate moments, that we came out of a pandemic where we didn't have any intimacy with anyone, you know, and to have these moments where we continue to get to know each other deeper. There's a power in the, you know, just even the touch that we provide to each other.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Well, I'm honored because, you know, you guys, not only is he an amazing colorist, he does great blowouts, all at Gila Root. Shout out to Carrie at Gila Root. But you guys, he used to be a massage therapist. So the hand massages that you give me when I'm having my hair like conditioned are to die for. Like legit, I'll go every day for that. So Jason, let's talk, I mean, gosh, I feel like there's so much I want to talk with you about, but let's really kind of get into it. Let's go right into it. So part of why I love coming to you is because the conversations that we have are not typical of what I feel like would normally happen. Obviously, certain guests that you have, you know what the conversation's going to be like, you know, okay, can I be myself today? You know, we all have those moments. And I feel like that with us, you know, we have this kindred spirit friendship where if I'm feeling like crap, I'm just going to go, here's what's going on, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're not feeling it, you're going to tell me. So talk to me a little bit about, you've been in the business for how long? Let's go there. And secondly, let's talk a little bit about your journey, right? You've been sober for how many years?
7 years.
Okay. So that is a huge talking point for me, because I myself have been recovered from anorexia for, probably over 20 years when I was younger. So I understand that there's a lot of things that go into that. The mental health aspect, there is the physical aspect, there is so much going on that makes you feel like I can either do this today or I can't do this today. So tell me a little bit about when you became a stylist, why did you become a stylist, what motivates you, and how do you keep your mental health in check? Perfect. Not too many questions, I know.
So, you know, I had always wanted to do hair. Mm-hmm. You know, there was this little boy who, growing up in the mountains of Utah, would hide with his sister's Barbie and, you know, do her hair. And, you know, people, when the Barbie movie came out,
Barbie.
And people kept asking me why it was so important to me. It's because Barbie was the first hair I touched. You know, I would get yelled at by my mom because I'd use her expensive shampoo and conditioner on my Barbie's head, you know, but it really...
But Barbie's hair looked good.
It did.
Okay.
It did, until I curled it one time and melted it, and that's a whole other story. I had to buy my sister a new Barbie and my mom a new curling iron, you know, but that's what allowances are for.
Gosh.
But I was willing to make that sacrifice then. But then what happened somewhere along the line is a story I told myself where that wasn't what I was supposed to be. There was a story I told myself about that little boy. There was a story I told myself about that little boy who grew up in Utah, you know, who grew up in a place where being a hairdresser wasn't like supposed to be, which is completely opposite from the story that was actually told to me. My mom and my grandmother worked in fashion. Like their hairdressers were, at the time when I look back, I'm pretty certain openly gay. But it was a story and a contract that I made with myself that it wasn't who I was supposed to be.
So let's pause there for a moment, because you were how old?
I was 6 or 7.
Okay. And we know in life, 0 to 6 years of age is what we call the critical period. Every experience a child has between those years forms their thinking, their ways of behaving, their ways of dealing, everything. That's a critical period. So here you are, 6 years of age, and you're already negotiating with yourself that this is not who I'm supposed to be. Let's go.
And there was stories outside of me that told me that who I wasn't supposed to be. You know, so like I said, it was something that I always wanted to do, you know, and then, you know, life kind of happened. You know, high school, I was very fortunate. I was in high school. I was a cheerleader. And I, you know, once again, the story that I told myself was not the story that was true. There was a story that I had about myself that I was unlovable because of who I was, et cetera, but I was popular, you know, and I had a ton of friends and I was a cheerleader and, you know, all these things. But this story and this contract that I negotiated with myself at some point made me feel like I wasn't worthy or capable of doing things outside of this one little box.
Wow. 6 years old.
And that story continued.
Until?
You know, if I'm being honest, there's times when it's still like a story that I have in myself today. You you had mentioned earlier about conversations that we have, and it's, you know, I see hundreds of guests, you know, and there's little moments where there's little cracks where you get in a little further, you know, and like our relationship didn't start out the way it did. You know, it was moments after moment of laughter or jokes or things like that. And I think that I don't believe there's ever a guest that's in my chair that wasn't brought to me. Right. I 100% believe that. Right. You know, because of the intimate relationships that I've developed with them, because of the depth of the relationships that I have been able to develop. And I wasn't always able to have deep, meaningful connections because part of it was I couldn't ever be me. I couldn't be me for the longest time. You know, so after high school, I went to fashion school and, you know, and at some point, actually, I know exactly when I started drinking. I grew up with a dad who was an alcoholic and an addict. It was a very unstable household. It was very toxic. And so then at some point, growing up, me and my little sister made a pact. That's never going to be us. We made a contract. Once again, a contract. We're not going to end up like our dad.
Right.
She didn't, and I did. You know, we had moved at some point from Utah to a small town called Lake Havasu, Arizona, which was a huge party town. And
love it.
Yeah, that's all we did. We drank on boats. We did these things.
Well, I mean, my former life loved it.
Yeah. You know, and I still do. There was, you know, like if I could do those things and have no consequence, if I could do those things like other people do and go and drink for the weekend on the boat and, you know, go back to my life, I would do it. But that's not the story that's not the story that exists for me.
The narrative is kind of set up for you, right?
Yeah.
And who are we, as we are trailblazers in our own lives, in our own rights, in our own minds, in our own industries, to kind of reframe the narrative, right? And that's not just a one and done. That is a process.
It's constantly changing.
Right?
It's a constant evolution.
So you're past 6 years old. You and your sister make these contracts. She fulfills it. You don't.
Which also makes me feel like a failure.
Okay, there we go. And so that feeds into the whole, because of the person that you are and the profession that you've chosen, because you're very good at it, that perfection mindset, right? Or I have to excel at this, or if not, then I'm less than, kind of goes back to what we were talking about before we started filming, is our mental health. Right? So mental health is so important, because you're sober and you've been sober and you're working it and you're doing well, and you still have friends who aren't, and you're doing just fine mingling and commingling. But the mental health aspect of it, because as we know, you know, you're on this journey now, you broke that contract. What kind of grace did you try to extend yourself then that carries over now?
I was not always kind to myself. You know, and I wasn't kind to myself because like there was this idea that because I had become an alcoholic or because I had become an addict, that I was once again not worthy, you know? And so it took a long while to give myself any type of grace. I would say, honestly, it's into this sobriety, because if I'm being completely honest, this is not my first sobriety.
Yeah.
This is not the first 7 years of sobriety that I've had. You know, I got sober when after my mom passed. I moved out here to California and I was sober for 7 years, but the things that I didn't talk about in that sobriety, the things that I didn't want to look at or work on in that sobriety, you know, there's a term in sobriety where it says, you know, your secrets will keep you sick.
Oof, your secrets will keep you sick. That's going to be the name of this episode. Your secrets will keep you sick. Let's elaborate on that.
There were things that happened, you know, as a younger boy or as a, you know, growing up, I'm in my late 40s now. You know, I didn't grow up in a generation where people were having normal relationships. You know, the relationships that I had were with men who were much older than me. The relationships that I had were with men who were in other relationships. So at a very young age, I was taught to be somebody's secret. You know, and it was a very hard pill to swallow. So,
but you know what? At some point in your own mind, you negotiated with yourself and said, it's okay.
It's okay.
Because this is what I deserve.
Well, not only this is what I deserve, this was the only thing available at that time. You know, in Lake Havasu, partying on boats, it's, you know, it's these little moments. You know, and so eventually what happened is like that became the narrative. That this is who I am. This is who I'm supposed to be. And I was okay with it. And so the things that had happened that I thought, oh, it happened when I was a teenager, it's not going to affect me, were the direct things that affected who I became.
Right.
You know, I was with someone who, from an early part of our relationship, I knew they were unfaithful. Yeah. But I grew up in a household where my parents were unfaithful to each other, so I saw it.
So it was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and there was something that was very addicting about the chaos. You know,
addicting about the chaos. There's something. Yeah.
I felt something.
Yeah. You felt alive. The drama that made meaning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like whereas it would be insignificantly useless if there weren't something chaotic going on about it.
Yeah.
Addicted to the drama.
100% addicted to the drama. And so when I got sober this time, after, you know, relapsing for 5 years, that person, like our relationship blew up. It got ugly. And when I came back to sobriety, the thing that I knew was I couldn't keep anything a secret anymore. I had, and whether it be, so in AA, you have a sponsor and that's a person you talk to. And sometimes there's some things that you just can't talk to a sponsor about. They don't have any experience with it. They have experience with how they recovered from drugs and alcoholism. Yeah. But they don't necessarily have experience about how they recovered from trauma, things like that. And so I really had to seek out spaces where I could get the help that I needed.
Safe.
Yeah.
Safe.
Yeah.
So, wow. Okay. So 6 years of age, you and your sister make contracts with yourselves. She goes through with it. You don't. Then you're going into your teens, your preteens, your teens, early adult life. The same patterns are there. The same choices are there. How are you able to handle this mentally?
I don't think I did. I drank and I used and I escaped. You know, there was brief moments of stopping using. Usually it was court ordered. And even then, like, you know, if you want to do something bad enough, a contract that I made with myself when I was going to start using was, I'll do anything to get it. Yeah. And so with that same type of contract, it now translates into the grace I give myself with, like, I'll do anything to get it. I'll do anything to be a stylist. I'll do anything to further my career. Therein
lies shifting the narrative. You took what was a perceived trauma for you, a continued perceived trauma, and the narrative that you didn't feel like you had a choice to change. And look, you turned it around and you've applied it to your business and you're succeeding and you're thriving. So out of all that pain comes this, I'm still in that narrative, but now it's for the healthier part of me. Yeah. Now it's for thriving. Now it's for succeeding. Now it's for growing.
It's not just for surviving anymore.
Big one. Yeah.
You know, because there's a difference between surviving and thriving and living. There's a difference between surviving and living.
Yeah.
You know, and for so long, I was just in this survival mode.
Yeah.
You know, so when I got sober, I had an opportunity to go to school.
Yeah.
You know, and this is the thing that I had always thought about. And it was the thing that was always in the back of my mind. And everyone's
Barbie.
like, yeah, you'll be good at this. You'll be good at this. And, you know, because I used to I've always loved color.
Yeah.
You know, fun fact, I don't cut hair. I don't own scissors. I've never wanted to cut hair.
Yeah.
So what you get when you come to me is someone who specializes in color,
right,
that understands color theory, that, you know, there's these little things that make a difference.
Yes.
You know, the knowledge that I seek
yep,
then turns into the work that I produce.
You know, one thing I marveled about you, among many things, is, you know, when I started seeing you, I had probably 3/4 of a head of gray hair. And I didn't want to get rid of the gray hair because I was aging gracefully, and I am aging gracefully. I'll be 58 next month.
It's amazing.
And I really believe that how you take care of yourself is obviously how you're going to go into this second part of your life. But I still do till this day. I'm constantly negotiating with you, Jason, let's cover more gray. And you're like, no, we're going to do something different this time. So I share this because not a lot of style or colorists would know how to do what you do with my hair, where we're still leaving gray in there, but yet there's some depth to it, and there's just all kinds. So my point is, you really take what could perceivably be a challenge, an obstacle, and because of the narrative that you've lived out, and you flipped it, and you apply it to your business, you're able to succeed at something that looks like, okay, how am I going to do this girl's hair, right?
Well, and it's
like, how the hell am I going to do this?
Well, because I also know you, and because of the times that you've been in my chair, I know what you like to do for maintenance. I know that, you know, you've spoken about aging gracefully, about
my breast implants.
You take having it removed. Yeah, you know,
the health journey. Yeah.
So knowing that about you, and I could have easily said, let's cover your grays. I know you hate to see them. You're going to come in every 3 weeks. I could have made a contract with you saying, I'm going to get you on this maintenance schedule where you're going to come every 3 weeks. We're going to hide every single one of them, and you're going to keep this, because then once you start that,
forget it.
You're keeping up and you're chasing it.
Well, I do see you 3 weeks anyway.
You do, but
I don't do my own hair. Period. That's it. It's not always for color,
but it's for different reasons. You know.
Yeah.
But you were willing to have a conversation, and that's the thing too. Is I feel like the further I've gotten along in this career, the conversations that I've had with people, you know, because of course I want to make you happy, but your happiness goes beyond what's in this moment.
And outward.
Yeah.
It's really inward.
Yeah. And in this moment, you don't want to see this certain thing.
Right.
Because of the way it makes you feel about yourself. Right. In the long term, they aren't going anywhere.
Right.
Those grays are there. The only thing we can do is hide them, mask them.
Manage them.
Yep. Because if in the long run, they're not going anywhere.
No.
So let's find a way to work with them.
Right.
You know, because otherwise we're facing a battle where it's, these are the stories that people tell me when they come into the salon. The gray's not cover, or the color's not covering. Ma'am, it's permanent color. It does not cover. Or, you know, and then I'm like, I part their hair in the middle because they're like, it's, you know, it's growing so fast. I'm like, no, it's only growing on this side because you're parting in the middle, so you're seeing this whole thing. And it's like, but this is the story that they become addicted to.
Right.
And we become addicted to this narrative. Yeah. So I was in treatment, and I had an opportunity through the wonderful city of San Diego to go through something called the Department of Rehabilitation, where they paid for my education.
Oh, nice.
I chose City College because even though the Department of Rehabilitation was going to provide most of the funding,
right,
if I was to go to a private school, it would have cost a lot more, and I didn't want to end up in more debt.
Right.
So I chose to go to City College. You know, I will always cheer on City College. They have the highest rate of people who pass the test the first time. You know, but going to City College had its challenges as well. You know, I was also 40-something years old walking into a classroom with a bunch of 18-year-old girls. And that was a whole nother story.
Yeah.
Literally another contract that I had to negotiate because I'm with children now.
Yes.
You know, and I'm fortunate now that there are people that I went through that program with, that I work with at Gila Root, because, you know, the one thing I love about Gila Root is the fact that you can have no education going in there, and they will help you learn.
Carrie does an amazing job with the up-and-coming talent. Not only with the up-and-coming talent, but with the existing seasoned staff, right? That's there. I mean, it is obviously during the pandemic, right? You guys had to pivot. You really did. And I feel like everybody came out of that really thriving. So 6 years of age, preteen, teen, now you're thinking, okay, I'm going to go and get my education. I'm going to become a hair colorist, a stylist. And now here you are. Your sobriety is a key factor to all of this every day, because you have to work the program.
100%.
Right? And I know that we've had conversations before where, you know, we've doubted ourselves, even with all of this success, even with all of the accolades that follow us, and all of the wonderful improvements in how you influence people's lives on a day by day, second by second basis. There's still that little voice in your head.
Oh, 100%. There's this imposter syndrome.
Okay, there we go. How do you deal with that? Because your business is so image based, right? Real estate is image based for the most part. But how do you deal with, I know how I do, but how do you deal with the imposter syndrome, making sure that your mental health is number one? We talked a little bit about the social media and how, gosh, if I don't have 185,000 likes, oh my God, right? My value has just diminished.
Yes.
When in reality, that's the social media world. That's not reality, right? How do you fare with all of the success that you have, the pending success that's on the horizon because you're continuing to grow? How do you keep your mental health in check so that your sobriety is a number one?
By keeping my sobriety number one. It's funny because sometimes I'll have conversations with people and they're like, what do you mean you still go to 4 meetings a week? Or what do you mean you work with other guys? And it's like, well, if you have cancer and you go for treatment, it's different with cancer because usually when you're done with your cancer treatment, it's gone, it's eradicated.
Yep.
I will always be an alcoholic and addict.
Yes.
I get a daily reprieve based on my spiritual condition.
Yeah.
And for me to maintain my spiritual condition, what I have to do is I have to go to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. I have to go and help other guys achieve sobriety.
Right.
The main thing I ever ask a guy when I first start working with him is like, are you willing, once we are done, to go help somebody else? Because this isn't just about you. This is about you. There's another guy who's walking in that door.
That's right.
Who doesn't know how to do this, who is exactly like you are right now, who doesn't know a way out. And so if I don't provide, and if I don't continue to provide a way in for people to find a way out,
right,
then I'm being selfish. And my selfishness and my self-centeredness is what kept me in that cycle for so long. The
humility that you show, Jason, I feel like it's something that humanity lacks. I feel like we should have more humility for the person that there's such a fine line between the haves and the have-nots, right? And all of us,
at any minute, this can all
exactly, and all of us at any second could be on the other side of it. And the humility that you have, because in life they say, you pick one up, reach down and grab another. Lift one up, reach down and grab another, right? It's not about just taking. We're here to really serve and to love other people. It sounds easy in theory, but really practicing that.
It does take practice. It's just so even going to the salon, you said, when I walked into that salon, I walked out of school. I got sober in 2017, completed cosmetology school in late 2019. March 13th of 2020, I got my cosmetology license and the world shut down.
Oh gosh.
So I got to spend the rest of my year. And what was hard is I had started at a wonderful company called Lazy Acres.
Love Lazy Acres. Yes.
I started out there when I was in treatment still. And I started out working as a barista and I ended up leaving there as a department manager. And so I worked there during the pandemic. And at some point I was like, I've got this license. Salons are starting to open up again. And there's this serendipitous little story that I'll get to real quick where I had just gotten to the point where working in this store was amazing and they took great care of us and it was a great company to work for. And by the time I left, I was making a considerable amount of money.
Yeah.
But I knew that I had gotten this. And it's like, I felt like there was this contract that I had signed that that contract was broken for me, unfortunately.
Yes.
That contract wasn't a contract that I
didn't even start. Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't even start with this contract that I just signed. Right. They handed me my license literally that day the world shut down.
Gosh, talk about timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, so I always believe that there's these little people in my life, not little people, but there's these people in my life and there's these moments that if we pay attention to them, they can help change the direction of the story.
The trajectory entirely. Yes. Yeah.
So I'm at work and there's this guy that I work with, Diego. And Diego happened to come into Lazy Acres and he was putting up posters because he needed he needed volunteers to come get haircuts. He needed models. And Diego was like, when are you going to start doing hair? And I was like, I'm like, salons are opening again. I'll get to it. I'll get to it. And he's like, I'm working at Gila Roots. And I'm training underneath a gentleman named Andre. And I've known Andre for 12 years.
Right. Ooh, see how that first circle came out?
It gets even crazier. So then about that same night, so cool, I'll stop by or whatever. He's like, yeah, it's really cool too, because I only get to be a hair cutter and we have, it's a focused salon.
Okay.
So he only cuts hair. He's like, if you want to just be a colorist, this is the place for you. That night, I go out and I run into Andre.
Oh gosh, come on.
Not even kidding. And Andre's like, yeah, he's like, Diego was in class today. He's like, he said he ran into you.
Yeah.
He's like, and I'm like, that's crazy. Probably about 2 weeks later, this lady that I shared my office with, Monique, came bouncing in and her hair was like, you know how it is when you first, because you take pictures.
Oh,
like
yes,
the minute your hair's done, you are in the car.
Get all the content you can get. Yes.
She came bouncing up the stairs.
So rare and far too in between. I'm like, oh, I got to get this now. Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, your hair looks so good.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, this guy at Gila Root did it. His name's Andre, said he knows you. So shortly thereafter, one of my close friends, him and his fiance were breaking up. He came to see me at work. And I happened to be the only manager there. And at the time, I was still smoking. Once again, a contract that I broke with myself just about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Finally decided to stop doing that.
Congratulations. That's a tough one, too.
It was honestly one of the hardest things I've ever quit.
It's hard. A habit takes
There's
how long?
no immediate consequence.
Because it's like a fixation. You're just like, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then my friend and I are standing in the front because I had to keep an eye on the front. And I'm trying to comfort him. You know, what are you going to do? And he's like, are you okay? You know, it was that brief moment where this person saw beyond me trying to help them.
Yeah.
Because I'm really good at helping other people. Sometimes it's a little bit harder for me to accept.
Of course. And help yourself.
Yeah. And he said, when are you going to start doing hair?
Oh, gosh.
And I looked down on the ground, and there's a business card that I still have to this day from a stylist named Ashley at Gila Root.
Stop it, Jason.
And in that moment, I knew that it was time to take a leap of faith. And it was a giant leap of faith because when I left Lazy Acres, I had a consistent paycheck. I was basically salary. I knew what I was making every week. And I was walking into some place where I was going to be an assistant for 6-9 months, even maybe a year at minimum wage. And so I signed a contract with myself saying that I believe in you, that I believe that you are going to get beyond this point.
You flipped the script.
That if I continued to have the faith, if I continued to do the things and put one foot in front of the other, and it was not the easiest year of my life. There was times when it was difficult. There was times when it was, but I knew because I'd had the stories that I had started to tell myself once I got sober was like, you are worth it. Like this is, if you want to do this, like this is going to take work.
Yeah.
This is going to take sacrifice. And as someone who never really liked to give much self-sacrifice, to start doing things like volunteering. One of my greatest things that I ever did was the first week in cosmetology school. We went and we did something called Stand Down, which is where we give haircuts to veterans. And everyone was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to touch them.
Oh.
You know, it's still something every time they do it, I will go and do the haircuts.
I love that.
Because even though I don't cut hair, like I can buzz somebody's hair with a, that's all they really want.
How difficult is that to kind of get in there and do
but
that?
it's like, it's the act of service.
It's the fact that you're doing it and taking time to do something for someone else.
So back to my mental health and what that looks like is, it's morning meditation,
breath work,
taking that, and like there's times when I even spend that 5 minutes in the car before I walk in the salon, because I fortunately know for the most part what my day looks like ahead. Yeah. I see who's on my books.
When you see my name, you get really excited.
I do. I do. No, I do. And when I see your name drop off my books, I get sad. But that's besides, because life happens.
It does. I'm busy how you're running around. But yeah, because like it's a full on, I know my days when I'm going to go see you. And I know if I can't, the one thing I love about not just you, but the salon is even if I'm not on the schedule, I'll call and go, oh my God, I've got an event tomorrow. And you squeeze me in. Like legit. Now that right there goes so far. In people's, because that shows you care. That shows like she's important enough to me. So that right there shows me that the value you're placing on yourself is now showing in the people that you care for.
And if we don't talk, I can get you done in 20 minutes.
Right, exactly. If we're not talking about what should we do today to negotiate going darker, all this stuff, right? So you meditate daily. You've gone through all of this. Gosh, I feel like that you could write a book. So you've gone through all of this. You are now working at Gila Root. You've got a really good business going, and now you're looking on the horizon. So the things that you do to keep your sobriety going is sobriety's number one. You do meditations. It doesn't matter where you are. And we talk about spirituality every time I'm sitting in your chair because it's very important to me. But you are now making a conscientious effort to do more of that, to be a better person. I'm going to guess, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, just because you've been sober for as long as you have and you've arrived where you are, doesn't mean it's any easier.
This is not my final destination.
Right.
You know, if I want to keep going to like what's next, I have to look at what I've done, look at what I'm doing today, and that will help me design what's next.
Yeah.
You know, because this is all by design.
Yeah.
You know, I am very fortunate that Carrie is an amazing person to work for. Mm-hmm. She's in this industry for a lifetime, basically. The person that I credit so much of this to really is Michael, our manager. I have never worked with someone who is so...
He's hands-on.
He's hands-on, but he's hands-on, but he's hands-off.
Yeah.
And the reality of the situation is he has curated a team that works well together, that provides excellent service, you know, and that was taught to him by Carrie, I'm certain, you know, but having him alone, there's nothing that I haven't been able to talk to him about. Yeah. And because he's taken the time, he knows when I walk in, hey, do you need to go in the office? Yeah. You know, because unfortunately over the past year, there's been some tragedy.
Of course, I know.
You know, being sober, that's part of, you know, for as much joy as there is. Yeah. I will always say this. One thing about being sober is you will meet some of the most amazing people you will ever meet. And
the cool thing about being sober and meeting the most amazing people that you'll ever meet is you're sober.
Yes.
And you can actually feel the experience. Yeah. So some of and I don't want to go into this too much, but some of the tragedy you've endured this year, tell us a little bit about not so much the who, the what, the when, but you've lost some people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
And that I would think would rock my life, sober or not.
Yeah.
Right? How did you fare?
I buckled down first. One of the first things I did, you know, the most recent one was, you know, I feel like there's a difference sometimes, like my friends will overdose and, you know, accidentally, things like that. This one happened to be a suicide. And that being said, I feel like if you've ever had any type of ideation or thought of, you know, where you are in this world, things like that, that it definitely hit me harder. And this was a person that wasn't just on the outside. Right. This wasn't someone I knew. This was someone who I had gone to family functions with. Like they were literally a part of my family, and I know I was their family here. It's hard. So to know that that was a choice that they made sober, you know, they didn't do this when they were drunk or using, like at a sober state of mind, they said, I can't do this anymore. And just, they say it's the greatest act of courage and the greatest act of selfishness at the same time. Yeah. That is so true, right? He set off a grenade and walked away. I can't, there's a selfish part of me that wants to be mad because I want my friend here, but I don't want my friend here suffering. Right. You know, so how I fared was at first it was not easy. Yeah. You know, but I also know because of talking about it. Yeah. Saying like, this is where I'm at right now, reaching out to my friends because I always felt like a burden. And so really having people that like, and I know if I would message you like, you know what, I'm not doing great today. I know. Like we could have a conversation. Yeah. You could, you know, like, knowing that the people in my life are people that I can trust and that because of the way that I've learned how to care for them, I in turn have people in my life that care about me the same way.
Reciprocates.
Yeah, it does reciprocate.
You're only as good as your tribe, right? Yeah. The people around you, and it's true. Yeah. To say that you've endured a lot and have come out, your resiliency is so strong. I can see that and I can sense that about you. If you were to give, and we'll wrap it up with this, if you were to give any advice to stylists that are up and coming that have been on a journey similar to yours with alcohol and substance abuse. They're going into this whole different world, right, of hair. What's two things you would give them advice about? Keep learning. You're not going to learn everything in school. Like this is an industry where everything changes. Styles, techniques, trends, even the way that things are formulated. You know, like the technology alone, stay in touch with education, remain teachable. That's huge. 100%. And remain humble. Yeah. You know, the thing is like the person that I admire the most admires somebody else. Like, and the person that is, there's someone at my salon that admires me. And they're watching you quietly. Yeah. Yes. And you're leading by example and you don't even know it. Yeah. And so in those moments where, like there's days when I feel like nothing I did is right, or, you know, or I'll have like an assistant come up and say like, hey, I watched you do this, or can you help me with this? Like be willing to give away what you have. That's a good one. And keep learning. And you can't give away what you don't have.
Exactly. So if you haven't learned it, you can't give it away.
Right. So those are two very poignant. What are you grateful for?
In this moment?
Right now.
Vulnerability. I didn't know what I was going to walk into. You would give me a little bit, but you and I have created a space between us that is no greater than this.
Right.
And in that, it was such an honor for you to ask me. So this, for vulnerability, and that knowing that the truth, the power of the truth is so much stronger than anything else.
And that it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
Right? That we are so, I did a previous podcast, and I think what was said was we get to this place where the grit is unsustainable, right? That we're grinding and grinding and grinding, that we forget
grinding something, it's going to disappear.
Okay. Eventually. And that we forget to take care of ourselves, that if we're not good, the people that you help aren't going to be good. Right? I know that if I drive myself into the ground, my clients suffer.
Yeah.
Right?
Same
with you. Right? So I will say this. I'm so proud and so honored just hearing your story, albeit kind of condensed, that now I have more respect for you. Now I see you and you have, you just resonate hope for people. You resonate that it can be done, because you came from a 6-year-old boy who was living out this narrative that I'm sure kind of filters in every now and again, but you're flipping the script. And I like to call those plot twists, right? Like, oh, plot twist. Yeah, I am going to do well. Plot twist. I'm going to go on and become this badass stylist. Plot twist. I'm going to conquer whatever I'm going to conquer, and do it sober. And in between, life will happen. Suicides will happen. Deaths will happen. Overdoses will happen. Financial loss, whatever will happen, but yours are going to keep going. Yeah. So Jason, I cannot wait to get in the chair again with you next, because I will convince you to go all dark.
This is a battle that she will
This
not
is a battle. What a blessing you've been. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you so much. Guys, the contracts we make with ourselves, it doesn't matter what it is. You too can do it. Jason is a good example of it. If you want to reach out to him on Instagram, what are you?
Hair by J-Bay.
And spell that?
HAIRBYJAEBAE.
Check him out. Gila Root, Hillcrest, Best Salon. Carrie is the owner. Michael is the manager. Go see Jason for all of your color needs.
And Adrian Shannon. We love them too.
We love all of them. Peace out, San Diego.